got into a massive battle with Hamas. One of the terrorists came out of the tunnel, and we heard he has an RPG. Someone on the radio just said Yesh lo RPG, he has an RPG. He had an APC that was carrying all the explosives, about 200 kilos worth of explosives. And all of a sudden, we see an RPG, like a terrorist come out with an RPG and fire. You just see the RPG shooting. And where is he shooting it at? The armored APC that's carrying all the explosives. So when we entered Gaza, we were literally the first ones to end this. And I remember when I went in, I said, this place is so beautiful. How could they be so stupid and destroy it? I mean, it's like they pushed the self-destruction button.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Israel Guys. We've got a real special for you today. We have Efraim Abrams here in the studio, an IDF soldier straight out of Gaza with all kinds of stories to tell. So we've actually just now met. Like, we sat down at this table and we're just meeting Efraim. You're originally from America. I figured that much out since you've walked from the car to the studio. But this is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing your story really for the first time here on there with everybody else that's watching and listening right now. So give us let's just start into the story. You came to Israel from where?
So first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I came to Israel about 5 years ago, six years ago,
okay.
from Long Island, New York.
All right.
I made Aliyah.
Yep.
Came here and I went to
As a lone soldier.
As a lone soldier. My whole family's in the States. I went to a pre-military school up in the Golan called Keshet.
Okay.
A religious pre-military school, and they made some crazy warriors came out of that place. Sadly, we lost a few people from that school in the war.
That.
Yeah,
so these were friends of yours. A
couple of friends, yeah. We lost about 9 guys from that pre-military school.
Sorry to hear that.
After I finished pre-military school, I then drafted to combat engineering, a unit that before the war was very humble and nobody really knew about them. And I was there for 1 year and 8 months as a regular EOD specialist. After the 1 year and 8 months, I decided to become a commander. I went to commander school, 4 months there, and I specialized in explosives and minefields and all the fun stuff. And then they gave me another course to take where I became a D9 commander, where I commanded over heavily armored construction vehicles. After I finished commander's course, I then was just, again, another 6 months of regular duty.
All of this was before October 7th?
All this was before October 7th. I drafted August 2021. 1 year and 8 months later, plus another 4 months of commander's course. And that was about March of 2023.
So now with that backdrop, what happened? October 7th, what were you doing? What happened?
So a week before October 7th, I was on a break. I got military leave. And it was my first break actually in Israel. Lone soldiers, we get to fly back to the States every now and then. So it was my first time actually off in Israel. I decided to do nothing all week. I had to have a break,
Right.
And that Shabbat, on Simchat Torah, I got a phone call.
You're in America.
I was in Israel.
You were still
I
here,
was in Israel on a break. And it was the holiday of Simchat Torah. And I'm a soldier. I'm off duty. And I'm 22 years old. I'm a combat soldier. I'm off. But it's a holiday, we're going to drink. So the night before, my friends and I, we got crazy drunk. And I tell people, the first hours of October 7th were incredible, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, because we were partying all the night with the Torah. And about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, we departed ways. I went back home to sleep. And I set an alarm to wake up so I could go to synagogue and pray. For 7 o'clock in the morning, I set an alarm. I went off, but I was still drunk. So I decided to go back to sleep. And my phone goes off 8 o'clock in the morning sharp. And I knew I didn't put an alarm on. So I'm like, all right, no one's just calling me 8 o'clock in the morning. So I look at my phone, it's my officer. And I'm a religious soldier, so I can't use electronics on Shabbat. But I know that if I get a phone call from my officer, I have to answer it. You have to be always prepared, even on the Sabbath. So I answer the phone and I tell him hey, Idan is his name. Hey, Idan, how's everything? Shabbat Shalom. And he starts telling me that there are a few terrorists infiltrated, not 3,000, 6,000, however much it is. Right. And they're firing rockets. Now, he called me, so I'm guessing it's somewhat serious. So hang up, whatever.
Also, this has happened before. It's not.
like when is like there's been times where terrorists have infiltrated the border, but not
Well,
like
rockets are pretty normal.
yeah,
too.
and rockets like happens, and I get up to get ready, I brush my teeth, a siren goes off. I live in Jerusalem by the central bus station. Like,
Okay.
no, so you're not seeing rockets over there ever. I knew right away that the war broke out. I just knew it. And I woke up my roommate, and he thought it was nothing. And I started getting more phone calls and more phone calls. And sooner or later, I was already on uniform and packed a bag real quick, and my vacation was over. And we made it. The logistics officer from my battalion called me and told me, "You're the only commander in the Jerusalem area. We need you to command over the bus for the Jerusalem district for the battalion." So I went and got a bus, and I'm still drunk, it was horrible. And I got the bus. We got all the soldiers
So
on
you're
the
like
bus.
gathering the soldiers
Correct.
that need to be
So
mobilized.
right. So there were a few buses that were sent around Israel, and for the Jerusalem district, which is probably one of the biggest districts for combat soldiers. And I had to take the bus not down south, up north to the Golan, because we were training in the Golan Heights for about 4 or 5 months. We're supposed to be training, and we were already 2 months in the Golan. And right there, it ended. So it took us a few hours to drive up, full speed. I mean, the bus is like going.
Right.
People don't know this, but even the bus drivers were called up for service,
Right.
Oh, wow.
for bus service
Right.
on Shabbat. There's no public transportation, so. That's why it also took so long for people to respond, because the bus drivers were waking up, having a cup of coffee, and they had no clue what was going on.
Right. So then what happened? What was your entry date into Gaza after all of this?
So
Was it pretty fast?
So it took 20 days to enter Gaza, but when we made it to the Golan, it took 48 hours to have all of our equipment ready, all of our explosives, our armored vehicles, APCs, D9s, everything.
Right.
And within 48 hours, I found myself already in what you call the Shitrei Kinus, the pre-invasion fields, not far from Zikim, the
local
right,
The beach
city there,
right there
Right.
in Gaza, yeah.
and we were there for about 20 days. 20 days we were ready to invade.
With your D9s, all your gear's ready to.
So like the first people in the pre-invasion fields were the D9s. I remember everything was lined up already, and mortars were being fired at us like crazy. And we knew that this was our moment. I mean, before October 7th, the D9 guys and the regular combat engineering guys, we were just doing regular guard duty or kitchen, regular like grunt style
what do you
work.
need a D9 for in normal
Right.
situation?
So it's even funny to say that, because before the war, the D9 you can never use it in what you call wet fire. You can only dry fire it, and because you have all these laws, you can't put the bucket in the ground because if there's pipes in the ground, so you weren't allowed to do anything. You would just drive it. So the only time you actually get experience is in war.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, also something that was a little bit of an issue, was we weren't fully experienced in demolition with D9s. We actually, I guess you could even say, we wrote the playbook for how to fight urban warfare with the use of D9s.
Luke knows that my latest thing that I'm so passionate about and excited about was the shipment of D9s that just arrived from the
excited.
US.
You were excited.
I was been excited about it. I even got this model, D9. Somebody, one of the fans brought it to us. But it's just fascinating. Now I'm sitting across the D9 commander that was ready to lead the charge in. So Trump set you up pretty well with these
God for
D9s
that.
that are just right here.
on why it took 20 days to actually enter Gaza from after October 7th.
So there is a reason. We had to purify Israel from the terrorists that infiltrated on the October 7th. And it took time.
It took 20 days?
So it took 20 days. And then we also had to gain intel on what was going on. It's like you have to
Before you came plowing in.
When we were in the field, in the pre-invasion field, everybody's so emotional, and if you go in on an emotional, then you're not gonna fight in a proper manner. It's like if someone were to punch you, you're gonna get startled and take a second, breathe, see what you're gonna do, and then go in. So that's really the mindset of what we did. And we also had to understand who is where, how many hostages, who's killed, who's this. And in those 20 days, we were actually cleaning up the Gaza border from terrorists and Jews.
Right.
And those 20 days were horrible. I mean, you could smell the smell. I mean, there's a certain smell that you can't put into words, and you can't pass it on through a video screen either, but it was horrible. The smell of something literally pierces your soul.
Yeah.
And the smells of decaying bodies. And
right. So then you're there with your team, and 20 days later, what happens? You literally start plowing in?
So we were given a debrief. Each D9 team was dispatched to different units. The D9 is dispatched to different units because each unit needs that engineering to enter. So I was under the 162nd Division. So if anybody knows what that is, that's like the division that fought in Gaza. And I was under the 401st Brigade, which is the brigade that fought. And then under the 601st Battalion, which is the combat engineering battalion that fought in this war.
Okay.
And these are the most operational units in the entire, I guess, theater in Gaza, in the entire combat theater in Gaza. And there aren't that many companies of D9s. Like, it's not like infantry. We have so many different infantrymen over the years. Only a couple here and there.
What are we talking about in numbers? Like how many bulldozers, how many men?
So I don't know if I could like say how many we have. So I don't want to.
In general, yeah.
Before the war, like now there's more because we just got the
Trump brought what, 130 new ones?
139, something like that. I don't know what the 39 is. Like it's a random number. But we had about, I think, 20 D9s in our company. And that's 20 D9s for an entire division. There were a couple of other reservists who came and they had reservist units, but at large, it was just our company.
Wow.
And we were all being sent to different battalions, the 46th Battalion, the 52nd, which is like tanks and infantry. So I was dispatched to the 52nd Battalion, which is the first battalion that crossed the border. And we were sent to this debriefing. And we were sent to a company called ZAM. ZAM means rage in English. And it's 6th company. Seventh company. And 7th company was a reservist company, which was like the all-stars of tanks. So they got this like company command, like them, listen, we need you to make just the best unit you can of tanks, of like guys who drive tanks and whatever. But you also need D9s. So he asked for and I say this in the most humble ways. I'm not trying to, right? I was in the right place at the right time. So, but he needed a team of D9s. And the best team of D9s in the battalion, in the company, was my team. And when we were debriefed, we just knew we were going to get probably the toughest mission. And the company commander tells us that we have the most important mission in the entire army right now. We're the first ones to enter into Gaza.
Wow.
So we look at each other, the D9 commanders, and we're just like, we know this is a suicide mission. We literally looked at each other and like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Now, combat engineering has a saying, combat engineering is always first. And you grew up in it, you were trained in it, but like, here it is. It's real. It's money time. Here you are. You're about to invade Gaza first. Now, the company commander, he cut the team into two teams. It was the main force and the attacking force. The main force was going to go in first, and the attacking force behind. Attacking force was like to protect the main force while they do the work. And in every mission, who goes first? Combat engineering. So that means the D9s are leading the way always. So we had 4 D9s. 2 for the main force, 2 for the attacking force. And I was dispatched to the main force. So the way it works with the D9s is 2 D9s always work together. D9 can never be alone. So it was me and my battle buddy D9. We were the ones that went in first.
And there's 2 soldiers in each.
Yeah, there's D9? Commander and the D9 operator. The D9 operator can barely see anything. And the D9 commander, he sees just about everything. So he's also a navigator, but he's also an explosive specialist. So he understands what is off in the field, meaning there's a string over there that doesn't look right, or
you're seeing what it is,
or maybe that's a tunnel over there. So you see everything, and the amount of tunnels we found
higher than the driver. More of a vantage point.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what's the threat?
Information
what's the threat to you? As your D9 is the first D9 coming into Gaza, the war is just beginning. You're one of the literally first soldiers to step foot into the Gaza on your D9 as you're plowing in.
Yeah.
what is in your mind? You said this is like a suicide mission. Why is that? Like, to me, a D9 seems fairly invincible because it's just so massive. It's armored.
Like the unknown too. Like we're not sure what we're getting into.
So
like RPGs. I mean, what's the threat? Like you.
So everything, let's explain what a D9 is.
I was about to say that. Maybe just for people that can't,
what is a D9? Is like a letter and a number? Is this like a mathematical equation?
We're talking about a big bulldozer.
So imagine taking like the ultimate doomsday vehicle and like building it to the most extreme and like a zombie plower. That's a D9 bulldozer that the IDF has. What they did was the IDF, they took this bulldozer. A bulldozer is designed to plow land. It's not designed to destroy buildings. The IDF's like, you know what? Maybe we can do it with that. So they took this bulldozer, they Gucci'd it with all this armor and bulletproof windows, and it's designed to purify the land. What do I mean by purify the land? The enemy, especially in Gaza, Lebanon's different terrain, but similar thing. Also Jenin and Shechem. But in Gaza, Hamas used 100% of the infrastructure for terrorism. Mm-hmm. Now, we could send an infantry into a building and look for a terrorist that's in there, but they're going to booby trap the building. It's going to blow up.
Right.
So what's an element that prevents that from happening? The D9s. So the D9 goes first. It puts its bucket in the ground, literally into a road, in the ground, whatever it might be, and it starts plowing the ground. And you see explosions while it's happening because they implanted we're talking civilian areas, urban areas, and residential areas. And
just a question: what happens when that happens when you're in there?
So it depends. Obviously, it depends on the mass of the explosive. For the most part, nothing.
It's like you hit a bump.
Yeah, it's a little more intense than a bump, but sometimes it's more than just a bump. And
so how big and how heavy? We talking for a D9?
So a D9 is it's 4 meters high. What is that, 20 feet high? Something like that.
Yeah, pretty close.
How heavy? I think it weighs like 54 tons, something like that.
And are you and the operator inside a cage, and is it bulletproof?
So we have a cabin. We call it the cabin. And if you saw the pictures of D9s that we received, they came what we call in the D9 naked, meaning there was no cabin. It just came.
Right.
Because we take the cabin and we completely change it. Right. We completely armor the cabin, and then we cage it. We put a cage around, what we call in Hebrew statisti. Why statistic? It's a statistic. It's 50-50. That's a cute way of saying it, but it's not really 50-50. It's more like 90-10. What does that mean? It's designed to prevent RPGs.
That's the main threat.
Right. So if they're firing an RPG, it'll hit the cage, and then it'll go up there, unless it's a more advanced RPG, then it has another warhead, and then, yeah.
So tell me your personal experiences. You had, not hypothetical, your experience with these threats.
Yeah. Well, we started talking, rolling into Gaza.
So I guess I'll start from there first. Right. So when we entered Gaza, we were literally the first ones to enter. I mean, there was nobody in front of us. Everyone was behind us. And I mean, you look at pictures of Gaza now, it's just crumbs, it's like, it's nothing. It's Lego pieces.
Right.
When we went in, it was a fully built city.
And this is northern Gaza, right?
This is northern Gaza we went through Zikim, so by the ocean in northern Gaza, and it's a fully built place. And I remember when I went in, I said, this place is so beautiful. How could they be so stupid and destroy it? I mean, it's like they pushed the self-destruction button. And I remember the first house to be taken down in Gaza was by my D9. But before we took it down, because we were still in the mindset of October 6th, I had to get on the radio and ask, can we take it down? Like, do we have... And the company commander's like, what are you, joking? Like, all the infrastructure has to be taken down. So we took it down, and it's like, whoa, this is actually happening. And it was just like, there was so much adrenaline at the same time. But I want to fast forward to 3 days into the war.
Yeah.
So 3 days into the war, before I do that, there was a mission that we did right before October 27th, which was the day of the invasion. We had to prepare the fields. And we went 3 kilometers in. It was the first time in over 20 years that the IDF went this deep in this part of Gaza. Mm-hmm. So 20 years, you didn't touch the land. Who knows what's going to be there? And we saw everything that the terrorists came with, all the Hamas terrorists came with from October 7th. And I remember it was my first time seeing an RPG, like visually. And there was just right by the border, there was an RPG on the Gazan side. And they had their little like buggies. And I don't know where they bought them from. Like, and then there was a Hello Kitty bag, a backpack, children's backpack. And I got on the radio and I said, there's a Hello Kitty bag here. Like, should we shoot it? And the company commander is like, oh, let it be. And the tanker, he's like, I'm shooting it. So he shot it and it blew up. Because there was reports of them bringing children's backpacks with explosives in it and leaving it so someone can come in because it looked like an innocent bag.
Yeah. Right.
And we actually saw it there. And that was crazy.
Time is running out to get the discounted 25% off registration price for the Israel Summit in Dallas, Texas, this June 9th through 11th, 2025. If you want to join myself, Joshua Waller, Ari Abramowitz, Jeremy Gimpel, Yishai Fleischer, Naomi Khan, Ambassador David Friedman, and the musical group Yonina, and many, many more, you need to sign up right now. Link is in the description below. You can get your tickets 25% off, but that discount is ending very, very soon, and a lot of people are signing up for this incredible event. So I want you guys to go right now, click the link in the description below, get your 25% off. Come to Dallas, Texas, June 9th through 11th. Bring your family. We have discounts for children, for teenagers. We want everyone to come meet thousands of other Israel supporters, amazing speakers from Israel, the pioneers and the heroes of Judea and Samaria and all of Israel. Guys, join us in Dallas, Texas this June 9th through 11th. Click that link in the description below, but please don't wait because people are signing up, so many people already, and we want to make sure you get your tickets and that you can get them at the discounted price of 25% off, which is ending very, very soon. Click the link in the description below to join us at the Israel Summit, June 9th through 11th in Dallas, Texas. Love to see you there.
Now, after October 27th, I want to fast forward to October 31st. It was night, and in Givati, one of the infantry brigades needed D9. So I raised my hand, I volunteered, and I went. And we spent the entire night, and we were with night vision. I mean, you're operating a bulldozer with night vision, which is awesome. Like, I'm gonna be like, that's like the coolest thing ever. But you're looking for a tunnel at night. You're looking for, take the most extreme form of construction and demolition, and that's what the D9 bulldozers are in the IDF. I mean, it's the most extreme form. And we couldn't find the tunnel. And as the sun was rising, this is October 31st, as the sun was rising, and we learned, we were fresh in the battlefield, so we didn't know how Hamas operates. After a few days, a few weeks, we understood how they work. Sunrise and sunset is when they come out and attack. And I don't know if that's like an Islamic thing, but that was when they would come out and do that. So October 31st, as the sun was rising, we heard on the radio that we got into a massive, massive battle with Hamas. One of the terrorists came out of the tunnel, and we heard he has an RPG. Someone on the radio just said, Yeshua RPG has an RPG. And there was just this massive, massive firefight. Till this day, I never heard a crazier firefight. And the Hamas terrorist, he fires the RPG, and it hit the Namer APC. Now this was the fourth day of the invasion. And on the radio, we hear 9 killed, 2 wounded. When one of the guys was wounded, succumbed from his wounds, and didn't survive. Only 1 man survived. And I think it was the 4th day into this war. Like 10 soldiers to the left of me, and you see everything. And because you're a D9 commander, you have amazing vision because there's armor. It's not a tin can. You have windows, bulletproof windows. So you see just this crazy on the 4th day. And where did he come out from? A tunnel. Where was the tunnel? In a residential area. I mean, it's when I left Gaza and came back to the States, I was so shocked at the lies that were spread.
Right.
The lies of this innocent Gaza, which was far from that.
It's unreal to see the amount, because you're exactly correct. When you see the BBC or you see the CNN or whatever, they're like, but the poor civilians, the civilians is all you hear on the media. Yeah. When of course, what you're saying is exactly true. That the messaging and the demonization that they tried to put on the other when they were the demon themselves, operating inside, putting a backpack, the Hello Kitty backpack on the thing to try to kill an innocent civilian in Israel or a soldier in Gaza. Deception
One of the
is its
hostages
key.
that was released a couple of weeks ago, she came out and basically said there's 2 million terrorists inside of Gaza. I mean, would you say that's true? Or?
So I think this was in December, if I'm not, December of 2023. It was a new year. I got to remember that.
Right.
Even though it's still been October 7th for me since, and time hasn't really moved on since. But I was in a house on the beach, fancy, beautiful, like mansion-style house, 5-floor villa, incredible. And a lot of homes were like that. And by the way, before we went in, we were debriefed about the poverty in Gaza. We weren't debriefed about the rich lifestyle in Gaza, and I was shocked about some of the stuff I saw. And we made it to this one house. It was someone who was high up in Hamas, not like Sinwar, but someone who was definitely liked within the Hamas world. And I was fascinated with this library. And I started opening books. And there was this one book about it was a summer camp pamphlet. And I took these books with me. And because I just knew from stories of my grandparents in the Holocaust that someone will deny it. And I have to have proof. Yeah. So I took it. And in this book, this 2013 Hamas summer camp book, sounds like a comedy joke. And it's a Hamas summer camp. And keep in mind, this is right before Operation Protective Edge, the last Gaza war. And these kids were my age. And in this pamphlet, in this book, you see them learning how to use AK-47s. They're going to Imam extremist classes and learning about shaheeds, becoming jihadists. And I'm like, and I was so happy I found it.
Right.
Because really, I wanted something to really show people that this is not a lie. It's reality. And I took it, and I thought about it when I was there, like, oh my gosh, this guy's 11 years old in 2013 or 2012, whenever it was. I was that age, and
this is who you're fighting.
And this
right
is exactly who I'm fighting. This is who came and attacked me,
right,
on October 7th, and now I have to go and fight them. When I was 12, I wasn't in an IDF. That doesn't exist, IDF camp.
No.
But an 11-year-old in 2013, he's one of the Hamas terrorists that invaded on October 7th, most likely.
And in the same library, I found a political cartoon. It was like a piece of a newspaper. It was an anti-West propaganda. We had a picture of the United States, Uncle Sam and Bibi, shooting at some imam. I'm not sure who it was. And I Google translated the Arabic and was talking about the evil West, the evil America, and the evil Zionist Israel, and it was just it just was the entire Gaza was just infested with this anti-West ideology.
Right. That obviously played out at where every civilian that has had 20 years of this kind of ideology placed upon them. Look what they're acting. Of course, they're fulfilling what they've been taught, right? From every kind of school. Doesn't matter. You're talking about a summer camp. What was summer camps did you go to growing up? I mean, in America, you go to summer camps, you swim, you ride horses, you do like whatever, you do fun things, you swing, whatever, like adventurous things. You're not given a gun and told how to shoot people. But that's outrageous.
Right. I mean, it's crazy that's the lifestyle in Gaza. When we went on the radio, they would tell us we're going to a school, we'd laugh. Why? Because we knew
it's not a school.
It's not a school.
We're going to see action at a school. I'm 100% of the schools that I went to, the hospitals that I went to, were all terrorist facilities.
100%.
100%. I never had an instance where it wasn't, which is so crazy to think about. Imagine go back to your childhood in whatever town you grew up in, and imagine the school you're in, the underground is a whole terrorist facility. It's crazy. And then you come home. You go back to the States, you go to the West, and you see the lies. They're calling you committing genocide, committing war crimes. War crimes. Have you seen what the other side did?
Right. And everybody seemed to forgot about that. 100%.
Well, one of the things that typically media blows things out of proportion, right? I feel like October 7th was the first time that the media never did justice to what actually happened. Meaning it was almost every instance it was worse than what the media was reporting. And even to this day, like people are trying to spread lies and propaganda, and stories are still coming out. Even the hostages that are being released, like it just gets worse and worse and worse.
I've got a question for him. When you're driving in, you were on tons of missions. It sounded like mission after mission after mission. It was just
every second was
just
a mission.
Everything was a mission. It was war. Did your D9 ever get hit?
So we got hit. Not once, not twice. I don't even know how many times. Every D9 gets hit. It's
what's this like? You're talking
RPGs.
We're talking
gunfire,
RPGs, gunfire, IEDs.
like every day.
Grenades, I'm not sure. Maybe there's so much shooting that you don't really know.
Like just explain this, because
So
I'm a little bit baffled by this. Like you're getting shot at every day. You're getting shot at
Every day.
Every day you're getting shot
Almost
at.
every day. Obviously, it depends.
How does that feel to be shot at every day? That's
in the D9s, we had a saying amongst the commanders. We went into our room and we sat down and we looked each other in the eyes. We had a really, really serious conversation. We told ourselves there's only two ways out of here. It's either we die, which we know is a very strong possibility, or we get wounded. And in that room, every single commander was wounded. And a few weeks before that, we lost a very good friend of ours. I lost my battle buddy, Sufyan Dagash, who was
in the D9 next to you.
Yeah, he was a Druzi soldier, and it's such an operational unit. It's the most operational unit in the entire war. And we were just given the title of the guys who won the war. I mean, did we win the war? Did we not? I say yes, because I've seen what actually happens. And if you ask any infantry soldier, they'll tell you without the D9s, we wouldn't have won the war. More soldiers would have been killed. More families would have to bury more of their loved ones, and more soldiers would have been wounded.
Yeah.
How many days were you? How many days was your deployment?
Days. I mean, October 7th to March 6th. On March 6th, I was wounded.
And like how often were you in a D9 inside Gaza, and in that, let's say, 6-month period?
So it was about, let's say I'd be 30, 40 days in, 2-3 days out. So it's like,
how do you psychologically handle that?
Every
that's
day,
outrageous. You get shot at every single
more or
minute.
less,
Like
every day you're in a bulldozer driving into Gaza.
Yeah.
So as a farmer, I've driven equipment around, and that without being shot at. It just destroys you like crazy. Like your knees, everything starts hurting after you're in one of these.
In the civilian world, construction vehicles is like one of the number one causes of injuries in any work, any industry. And you get spinal injuries, your knees are destroyed.
Yep.
Now imagine taking it to the most extreme scenario. I mean I've 2 herniated discs, I have crazy knee damage, I got a brain injury. I mean it's wild.
Can you describe what happened for your injury, or is that?
So I'll describe what happened. We were in the Netzarim corridor. And for those who know what the Netzarim corridor is, the IDF took northern Gaza and southern Gaza and cut it in half.
Yeah.
And in that process, when we were cutting it in half,
was that a D9 cutting in half?
Yeah, pretty much. It wasn't scissors,
Right.
But it was the whole engineering mission to build this and pave this place. We had to destroy all the buildings that were there and all the, I call it forests, but it was like olive gardens, whatever you call it, and orchards. We had to destroy everything. And we were by a Turkish hospital, which was pretty much turned into our base. And from there, we were dispatched to do missions, engineering missions. And we were sent on one mission to go find a tunnel. Now, there was a tunnel by a university, the Environmental University of Gaza, it was called.
Just doesn't make any sense.
It's crazy. The Environmental University of Gaza, just a name to get
plastic outside and everything environmentally incorrect possible.
Environmentally, if you knew what we found, you'd understand how nonsense it was.
That's just a way of funneling money in, basically.
Yeah, from USAID, whatever it's called.
Yep.
And we dug. It took us a week and a half to dig in this location. We dug about 70 feet into the ground. Just understand how crazy. It took us a week. We brought about 5 excavators. We were about 4 D9s just plowing and working 24/7. And we eventually made it to the roof of the tunnel. And we brought the excavator. We cut it in half. And we found a tunnel right outside the Environmental University. And now we went 500 meters away from that was a Turkish hospital, which we were stationed at. And there we spent 2 weeks digging, where we dug also about 70 feet, 80 feet, something like that.
My goodness.
Where we found the other part of the tunnel. This was the longest tunnel found in all of Gaza. It was 10 kilometers long. It was a logistics tunnel, and I'm 6'1". I couldn't even stand in it. Like you had to they had there's buggies in it. That's what it was for. 10 kilometers from northern to southern Gaza. Now imagine 70 feet underground, 10 kilometers worth of tunnel. What could have been done with that money? What could have been done with those resources? I mean, the Turkish hospital and an environmental university, and right under it is a whole terrorist tunnel.
The whole infrastructure they're waging war from is right underneath the hospital and this university. That's outrageous.
I tell people to look at Gaza not in a 2-dimensional way, not even 3, 4, 5, 6-dimensional, whatever you want to call it, because it's so complex underground, and there's a whole other world down there, and people do not understand how intense and how the magnitude of these tunnels.
So is this where you were injured on that operation?
So my injury wasn't, I guess, like the sexiest of injuries. Like
you didn't get a massive hit to the.
So I did, but I wasn't.
or-
I got an injury from that, but I found out only months later that I was injured from that.
Right.
Another thing we're tasked with in the field is extraction, because a bulldozer can tow just about anything.
Right.
So when a tank is shot down and it's under fire, we're sent in while they're firing us to go and extract it. And I've extracted probably hundreds of vehicles, and there's this famous unit 669, which is the PJs, which is the pararescue elite commandos who go in. People don't talk about the people who do the rescue right away in the field, which is the D9s. We go in while they're shooting RPGs at us, and we know that there's a chance we're not getting out of that scenario. But you hear the guy on the radio crying for help.
You're going.
So we go and we go and rescue. So I was on a extraction mission. We had an excavator, an armored excavator that broke down. And a week before, we had a civilian excavator that also broke down. We were by Zaytun. And Gazan civilians, innocent Gazan civilians, came, jumped on the excavator, and they destroyed it. And then they continued going down south. So a week later, another excavator was destroyed, but we couldn't leave it because we knew that the Gazans would come and destroy it. So we had to tow it. And it didn't have brakes. You had to take the brakes out. So if you're towing something with the brakes, if you know nothing about towing, you have to have another vehicle behind it to catch to serve as a brake. We didn't have another vehicle. So 4 kilometers for an hour. 4 kilometers an hour is nothing. I mean, you run 10 kilometers an hour, that's a decent run. And every time I stopped, it crashed in the back, and I had severe whiplash. I had a spinal injury.
Oh my!
And then tissue damage. And then I found out a few months after that I had a brain injury from it. And then while I was in rehabilitation, you don't just get shot by RPGs every day and come out mentally, I guess, healthy. Then I was diagnosed with a post-traumatic stress disorder and a traumatic brain injury, and I've been in rehabilitation for the last, in a month it'll be a year since I've been in rehabilitation.
Well, from us, we got to thank you for obviously that service. It doesn't go unnoticed. Maybe the world doesn't know, but from here, from the Israel guys and all, I'm sure it's like you're a hero. That you signed up to serve, and you served, an amazing way, and obviously you're paying for that now. But the nation of Israel has to thank you. I mean, everybody knows that you walk down the streets, whether they know what you did or not. You served in the IDF, you served and you defended Israel like you did. It's an incredibly honorable thing, and the highest respect for what you did, and made you get quick, speedy recovery on all the injuries.
Amen.
And more than that, all the trauma. My goodness, and what do you for your situation that you've been through? What do you think about all your buddies? Everybody's experienced the same thing, I'm sure.
So I lost over 40 friends in the war. 40 is a crazy number. Like I'm 23, and in a few days I'll be 24. But that's a crazy number for a 23-year-old. And I think about my peers in the States and college campus and their ridiculous mindsets that they're in.
Yeah.
And it's such a different world. I'm 22, 23 fighting this war. And every time I go home,
right,
I look at the list of people who was killed, and I see it was another friend of mine, another friend of mine, another friend of mine.
Right.
And we're talking friends from home, friends from my pre-military school, friends from my own unit,
right,
or just people that I was fighting with that I didn't really know, but maybe I shared a cup of coffee with them.
War buddy, yeah.
And you just watch your friends just leave,
right,
and you know that the angel of death is sitting right next to you, and you know that maybe this time you made it out and you got lucky.
Yeah.
But the next time, and the next time, the next time, eventually he's gonna knock on your door, and you know it's gonna come.
You mentioned you're a religious soldier. You believe in God.
Yeah.
Did you see any miracles while you served?
I saw every second was a miracle. I mean, the fact that I'm sitting, but sitting here right next to you guys is a miracle in itself. But there's one miracle. Well, there's many miracles, but there's one I really want to focus on. We were in a place called Dar Shtufach. You ask any soldier that was in that place in Gaza, they'll tell you it was the worst place they've ever been to. It was the winter, and it was true hell. If I saw hell, Dar Shtufach was hell. And my vehicle got stuck on a motorcade. We were just about to enter, and the mud was crazy in Gaza. It ate everything, and the United has chained the tracks, and it got stuck in the mud. So a whole extraction mission came out to place, and we had almost our whole battalion there defending us, and while trying to extract us. And there's a missile defense system to the armored vehicles, and they weren't really working in Gaza because the RPGs weren't fast enough, or they were shot at such close range that the missile defense system wasn't designed for that. So, and I never saw it work, and I've seen hundreds of RPGs fired. And here we are, we're all stuck in this mud, and we had an APC that was carrying all the explosives, about 200 kilos worth of explosives. And all of a sudden, we see an RPG, like a terrorist come out with an RPG and fire, and you just see the RPG shoot. And the Hamas has a video of it too. And where is he
Being
aiming?
shot towards you.
And where is he shooting it at? The armored APC that's carrying all the explosives. Now, if the RPG hits this vehicle, we're losing our entire battalion. 200 kilos of explosives. And we're all outside, trying to extract.
How many men, how many vehicles are we talking?
So let's say we had 10 vehicles, right? About 10 vehicles, let's say. We're talking about 60 men, something like that,
right,
at least. And that's a lot of people to lose in one shot. But the only time I saw the missile defense system work was right here. And it came out, and you see the RPG come, and the missile defense hit it, and it destroyed the RPG. And I walk out, and I go to my friend who's commanding over the APC, and we're just jaw dropped. And we neutralized the terrorists, obviously, before we got out. But that's just like a small miracle. But I mean, it was very close to the very last. Also, being the first one in, I mean, and surviving that is a miracle in itself.
Right, yeah. You talked about when you first went in, the first thing that happened was a house had to be destroyed. And obviously, I'm guessing that's a lot of what you were doing, the D9s, right? I think a lot of people wondered, Israel spent like 15 months, right, leveling Gaza, destroying Hamas. They went into Lebanon, and it felt like a matter of weeks. They, severely, can you explain kind of the difference of the type of warfare that you're facing in Gaza, and why, I guess explain why it was house to house demolition, just what was going on there, and how much more complicated is it in Gaza?
So Gaza, like I said this before, all of Gaza, the way it was built, we're told that Gaza is the most densely populated place in the world, but the reality is that's not true. Why? Because Hamas took everyone and built on top of each other. But in reality, there was so much open space to build and expand. But they knew if they do that, that doesn't hold their agenda. They need to use the civilians as,
right.
I don't use as shields, but because the civilians themselves were brainwashed to believe in being a shield. Yeah. So Hamas had this whole monopoly, and they're super smart. They never underestimate your enemy.
No.
And they took all the money, the billions and billions of dollars they're getting for the United States, from the EU, from UNRWA, and all these other private companies, and they used it to build a full terrorist city. Jabalia, Rafah, Khan Yunis. These places were just 100% used for terrorism. And the IDF knew that the only way to destroy this was to bring combat engineering and put explosives in buildings and blow them up. And it was far cheaper than using Air Force. And the Air Force also wasn't really so accurate in doing that. That's something that had to be done hands-on. Now, comparing Lebanon to Gaza is a very different form of fighting because Gaza is probably the most intense urban warfare in the world. And Lebanon is more of open terrain, which is mountainous. And you do have villages, and villages where it becomes urban warfare. And we saw in the villages, they're using the same exact tactics as Hamas was using. But the D9, another thing that I didn't say about the D9 is we also deforest. I mean, that's something that's common amongst bulldozers is to plow land. And the enemy, they did something genius that is so simple. They would take agriculture and they would grow oranges and olives and orchards and like I call them forests because that's really what they were. They were just massive forests of them. And you would think it's something like innocent and something where we're just growing oranges. But we had to bring our D9s in to plow it because you can't see if there's a terrorist hiding there. And as we were plowing it, what did we discover? The rocket launching sites.
That's what I was gonna say.
Were all hidden under these and it was so fun to plow the land and find like it's like Pop Goes the Weasel, like really, and you find these massive rockets. And I much found a rocket that was a rocket that could be fired from Gaza, and it was the rockets that were hitting Tel Aviv, which is ridiculously far for Hamas capabilities.
Would they explode sometimes when you hit them?
Yeah. So there were some times where the D9 would blow up and would continue. But I mean, we took pictures and we have everything I say is recorded.
Right.
And if anybody wants to fact check me, but every single forest was just a missile attack, right? Rocket launching sites and tunnels, every single place. And also, they were so smart about it because they would build the forest, and in a square perimeter around the forest was residential area, maybe a school, maybe or apartment buildings, and then the center was the forest. And they'd fire from that. Now imagine you're 5 years old. You're going to go and play hopscotch, soccer, whatever it is in your backyard. But you also have to be cautious that to the left of you is a rocket launching site, which is crazy.
And I'm guessing these civilians knew. It's not like it was a secret.
They were supportive. They loved it. They were religious about it. That's what people don't understand. They were religious about it. They praised it. They worshipped it. Every time a rocket went off, they were praising Allah and screaming and you're 7 years old, you're 12, you're 14, 35. I mean, what kind of life is this? And we destroyed Gaza, but the truth is, they don't mind living in rubble. I mean, there's Bedouin mindset, which they live in tents, and that's supposed to be like the most supreme form of Islam. They don't mind living in rubble because they know that they could still attack us. Their goal is to kill Jews, is to destroy the West. Once they take out Israel, God forbid, they're not stopping. I was in that house. I opened up his library. I saw it right there.
Yeah.
They're not stopping at Israel. They're going to come to America. They're going to come to Canada, Australia, wherever it is. And they're going to do the same exact thing.
I guess that also explains too, when you're talking about the rocket launching sites in Orange Grove, that explains how 3, 6, 9, even 12 months into the war, there's still rockets. Yep. This is something we always wondered. I'm like, how in the world is Hamas still launching rockets after the IDF has literally destroyed all of Gaza? But a rocket launching site could be anywhere. It could be in a backyard, in a
also
playground.
they have an alarm. Some of these rocket launcher sites have alarms set to them, so it can go
like a time. You mean like a timer? Okay.
So it can randomly go off, meaning not this year, it can be set for next year, and then it goes off by itself. That's why we see sometimes rockets randomly going off, because they set which is crazy. For December 25th, 2035, I want it to go off 8 o'clock in the morning. That's crazy. Why would you put your whole life and devote yourself to that when you could devote yourself to genuine peace? Who wants to lose 40 friends in a year and a half? I lost over 40 friends. I buried so many of my friends. For what? So they can get their caliphate, and maybe their friends they buried thousands of their friends. What was it for? What was your goal?
Right.
Destruction? That's all you're getting is destruction. You're not going to win this war, and we're not going to allow you to win it. And by all means necessary, and if it's necessary, we'll do it.
So how did the decision process, like when you're in Gaza destroying house after house, like how is it decided? Like what houses need to be destroyed? Where, are you looking for terrorists? Are you looking for hubs, looking for weapons?
So we do have to be on the comms to see which house to destroy, because if there's friendlies in there, we can't destroy it. But everything has to be destroyed, because we know the Hamas.
Well, if you destroy one hub, then they just move.
Correct.
Move everything into another house.
They just jump.
And
Also, what they do is they create caches in these houses. So they don't walk around with AK-47s and RPGs. They'll leave it in an apartment,
Right.
and they'll leave on civilian uniform, go to another complex that they know there's a cache there, and they'll use that. And then we can't shoot them, because when they leave, there's unarmed civilians, which creates this whole big question of, so what do I do? I know for a fact he's a terrorist. What do I do?
But he's in a building with civilians.
No, he's going to a building. So sometimes yes, and then when they come out, they're not armed. So
And they're wearing civilian clothes
right,
too.
they weren't wearing. Only on October 7th did they really wear their interesting tactical nonsense uniforms.
Right.
But
After that, they were trying to hide.
yeah, they blend in with the civilian population.
Is
Unless they're
pretty
doing a
much
video.
across the board? Like
Yeah,
when you
everywhere.
were fighting terrorists,
Yeah.
they're not in uniform.
I never saw.
So this is
terrorist
not
uniform.
people call Hamas militants, they call them fighters. I think this is not a military. These are not militants. These are just,
So I would disagree with that, because they were so well trained. So
but I mean, in the sense that you're not fighting another first world,
right,
military or something.
So that's just it. We're fighting in a third world arena. Their rules and their laws don't
and it's
apply
all
to us.
guerrilla warfare.
It's
right?
all
I mean,
guerrilla
they're
warfare.
using every underhanded tactic possible. They're
100%.
hiding behind human shields. Like,
So from friends and from people that I have friends in the intelligence sector in the States and in Israel, we know that they came from Afghanistan training camps with Al-Qaeda and all these places.
Right.
And those tactics that they use in Gaza, don't be surprised, the West, if those same tactics are going to be used on your own homeland. Those crazy
Right.
guerrilla tactics.
talk a little bit more about like the process when you do encounter terrorists that are mixed in with civilians. Like what is the we know the IDF is the most moral military in the world, but like what does that look like?
So
boots on the ground.
Let me tell you about some civilian encounters I had. We once had a motorcade of vehicles. We were going to look for rocket launching sites and tunnels. Again, we're just plowing land. And there's all engineering missions. And as our motorcade is getting, it's in the morning, it's about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. As we're getting to our extraction point, we see a mother and 2 children with backpacks on, and the backpacks are filled, like the zipper's about to pop open. And they stop by our motorcade, and we all look at each other. What on earth do we do? Because those backpacks could be packed with explosives, and we've seen it before. But we don't have the heart. A 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. Oh, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to kill a child. And also, we don't know if they're armed or not. So, if they do blow up, that's at our moral price. They're blowing up and killing us. So we got up in the chain of command. We went to every single commander in the region to see if they knew anything about these people. And we were fleeing the civilian population from northern Gaza to southern Gaza, and these were 3 civilians that went the wrong way. And if we didn't, if this was any other army, any other military, like those 3 people would have just been killed. Now, I'm not going to call them innocent, because I don't think anyone in Gaza is innocent, but they were unarmed, and there's a big difference between unarmed and civilian and innocent. Because you can be an evil person, but you're just not armed, so I can't do anything to you. But your ideology is still there. Now, those kids will probably grow up in an ideology to kill me, my kids, my family, destroy the West. But in my I call it like the Jewish soul of me, I could not kill a child there. And I remember this rush of adrenaline, and I was just praying, don't let anything happen. Just don't. I can't. I've seen so much.
Right.
Don't let this be another thing to see.
Right.
And it's horrible. And another scenario that I was in with the civilians, we were by Kikar, Palestine, which is by Rimal, Gaza City, which is like the most densely populated area. And we were with one of the special forces units, I'm not going to say which one. And we were clearing out the civilian population from the buildings. And we got this like 10, 15-story building. And we cleared out about 200 people from this building that were hiding in there. And we separated the men and the women. And I saw there was a difference between the children and the men. When the men came out, they were all large and chubby. They had meat on them. And you will never hear this anywhere. This was never reported anywhere. And I find it crazy that none of this was ever reported. When the kids came out, they were stick thin. They looked like they just got out of Auschwitz. You saw their spines and their ribs. And I'm thinking to myself, at first I thought to myself, this is horrible. This is a crazy humanitarian crisis. But I look to my left and I see the men and they're all fat. Like they're overweight. Why? Because those who fight get to eat. Those who don't fight don't get to eat. And at the same time, that's also used as an incentive to fight. You fight, you eat. What is a 7-year-old looking like a skeleton for? Where I come from, the men don't eat and the children eat.
Right.
That's what I grew up on.
Right.
But these are I don't even call them animals because it's such a shame to put that on an animal. It's a human being that
Right.
turned into a monster.
Worse.
That's so outrageous.
It's crazy. What would you say after, I guess it was 15 months of fighting, right? And then there's a ceasefire called, and I don't know, maybe you could tell me, reports I heard that Israel says they eradicated Hamas like 70, 80%, right?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden things stop, right? Like, what's your perspective? Has Israel won this war? Are they, is the war going to be won? Like, where are we at now?
Victory is, I guess, a general statement.
Right.
There are areas where we are victorious in. And first, the war's not over, so I'm not it ain't over till the fat lady sings, as they say, right? and there are things that we did win in, and there's things that we still have to win in.
Right.
Now, regarding the 15 months and the ceasefire, now, there's not a single person with moral clarity that will tell you we don't want the hostages home. There's not a single
sure,
person.
yeah.
Nobody.
Where does the argument come? Is at what price are they coming? Now, the truth is, and this is the truth, you can cut off all the humanitarian aid to Hamas. They don't care. They have our hostages, and that's something they're not giving up no matter what. They're not stupid. They know that's their golden
It's
ticket.
their only leverage, pretty much.
And people can disagree with me, and I don't think giving terrorists is a right thing. Terrorists who've murdered dozens of people, and the worst of the worst terrorists. But let's say the war does continue on, and we do get to invade again. Let's say, and we give them these terrorists, and we get our hostages back, and we see right now that's not really happening. And 12 o'clock, we'll see what happens on Saturday, right?
Right.
But and also, I knew that was going to happen. That they're not going to cooperate here. We're going to invade again, and then we're going to finish the business. And Trump's not a stupid man either. He knows too that these are evil people, and that's how it works. And especially after seeing what the 3 men came back and how they looked,
Yeah.
how they got out of a concentration camp. Look, we give them terrorists and we got hostages back. But 20 years from now, those terrorists, we saw some of these terrorists right away. They came back and they started doing terrorist attacks. I truly hope, because I didn't lose 40 friends for nothing. I didn't go and lose my soul and have a brain injury and PTSD and have all my friends wounded for us to lock the gate of Gaza and give it all back to them destroyed. I don't want them to even have a centimeter of the land. They don't deserve it. In what world let's take a child, for example. A child throws a fit at Toys R Us. It used to exist once upon a time, not anymore. Someone at a toy store throws a fit. Do you then give your kid a toy after they threw a fit? No. They're going to learn. You threw a fit, you don't get a toy. After October 7th, what is Hamas going to learn? You throw a fit and you get your own state? I'm sorry, but it's not how it works.
Right.
You did something wrong. You're going to get hit hard. And this is a hit of a lifetime. You're also never going to get back from this hit. You're never going to get back up. And that's what has to be done. If any state is created within Israel borders, that's Palestinian, we did nothing but lose. That, if a state is created, is 100% to lose. If Gaza, it's brought to American hands, Israel hands, whatever, it happens, and they're thrown out of the land. You know, people say throwing out people from the land is a horrible thing. I can do that. Are you familiar?
It's a war.
Are you familiar with Syria?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with what happened there? I mean, you want to talk about a refugee crisis? What about Congo? Go to the Congo. What are you talking about Israel? We're not the ones doing war crimes. Hamas is doing war crimes. You know, and there's a price in war. And when you start a war, and you lose it, guess what, buddy?
You don't have any rights.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you shouldn't.
Is that sentiment carried across the all the soldiers you're with?
So I'm not going to speak for every soldier.
Yeah.
But I am.
Well, because I also I know a lot of soldiers. You know more than I do.
Look,
what you just said is very.
Once you see the truth with your own eyes, there's no going back. You know, I have friends from all spectrum of the political whatever. In the army, there's no politics. It's nonsense. But like, with your comrades, you guys love each other no matter what. You know, you're willing to jump on a grenade for the guy, and rightfully so. And I have friends who thought otherwise about the Gazans.
Right.
And right after October 7th, after they saw everything, they realized that, you know what? You know, you have to take ownership of a mistake you make. And that shows true leadership, and that's the most noble thing one can do, is to take ownership of a mistake. And they took ownership of a horrible mistake of supporting Gazans. And we paid a price. And they know that we can't ever pay that price again. And I hope copy and paste that to Judea and Samaria with Jenin and then Nablus, as they call it.
Right.
Because that's the same thing. And October 7th is just a ticking bomb in over here in this area.
Crazy. Wow. Well, we appreciate you sharing your story. It's a story that needs to be heard. You know, the whole world is spouting the lies and the propaganda. And I mean, what you experienced, we're talking 6 months or plus or minus of combat, right? Is completely opposite of what the world is spouting and what the majority of the world hears and believes, what the mainstream media is spouting. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate the service that you've done for Israel and the Jewish people. And I guess the only thing we could say is, you know, just chazak ve'ematz, you know.
Oh, it was nothing, you know. I say, oh, it's nothing. Oh, 6 months of my life, you know.
Right. With the extreme amount of, those experiences are with you for the rest of your life. The wars,
if there's one thing like that you want the world to know, like, is there something that you would say?
One thing, you know, we say in Judaism, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, which is justice, chase it, you know.
Wow.
Where there's justice needs to be served. And, you know, we learned this in the West too, where true justice, or once upon a time was, I don't know about it anymore, but please God, it will be. But where there's justice, it needs to be served. And there's not a people worse than Gazans. And I mean it 100%. I saw with my own eyes. If somebody wants to tell me something, they come tell me and I will prove them wrong. These are not innocent individuals. They're dangerous. They're a cancer to the world. And I also hope, because there's also a massive rise of anti-Semitism in the world, where people are fed such crazy lies. We just saw this whole thing with Kanye West. And the truth is, nobody's doing anything about it. So you blocked him from here, you blocked him from there. My grandparents told me that the Holocaust began not with a concentration camp. It began with knocks at doors. It began with poor legislator, with poor judicial system. When my grandmother was in elementary school, she wasn't allowed to get above a 90 because Jews weren't allowed to be perfect in school, ever. And it didn't begin with that. Before that, with propaganda.
Right.
But justice was served to the Nazis. They don't exist anymore. And you go to Germany, if one small thing of the Nazi regime is mentioned, it's gone. And the West forgot how to fight wars. You fight wars where you seek justice. And justice is only won by bringing pure violence amongst the enemy. And if you don't do that, you will never see justice. And sadly, We look at the U.S., which is the crown, the king of justice in the world. And what it used to be, what it was. We destroyed the imperialist Japanese and the Nazi regime, and we created an incredible place. And then we went 20 years in Afghanistan to let everything go, and everything was given back to the back to the Taliban.
Taliban, yeah.
And where was the justice in that? And now the West is looking at Israel, which in the most innocent war, there's never been a war in the history of Israel that's been more righteous to fight.
Yeah.
Where's the justice? And I say, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Chase after the justice. And please God, we will.
Amen.
Efraim, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for your service to the land and people of Israel, and we're in our eyes, you're just a hero. So thanks for all you've done.
Nothing.
Yeah, right. It's a lot, and we're honored to meet you.
Thank you for having me.